Guru Krishna Bhavana Dhyari Atokesura Nini Bhuago Kyuma Kyoma Sekamari Kiziro Bayandara Muketiya Olo Kani Sauta Somo Usoke Samari Akawa Kurupira Val Arum Yoga Hello, Pina Yogu Kriya the Davali, Bamalu. Go my see it one hour. Coat over the rest of the Java. Go my see it 1 hour of smart Santa. Sounds up to people. Kaunaki, Kauduya, Kauna Kulukida, Bolivia, Kansina Kulukida, Bolivia, Nigeria Kulukida, Bolivia, Kaudu, Kansina Suyago, Nani, Pasmadu, Nana, Nigeria, Kansina, Yipati, Kulukida, Bolivia. Sikam Siranaga Yoga Okanga people, Yanga people, Tari, Navia. Madera, Sasana, 6,000 to quite young and the world. Canada, the law, Nala, you see who, you see what. You see Mama Luna, you see Mama Luna. Sayadawgyi. Sayadawgyi who Korea, the way of Madhyari, some to say for you. Korea lives at TCPO. So, I'll come to the period of war. But the Diari, I'll come out. To the Fujula, I'm out to look at the war. To the Larakata Diaria, the good of my diario, since the material was also, the Yogi who are Pamagoma, you got a pilot of Sia. The good deputy of the Silo, Madia Matilda at rest. Let's find you see that, so that the answer. Ilama Gansi told the poor beauty is about Sayadawgyi to the jail. See that you see there, the thing that you got killer. The civilization, the civilization, two got killer. Go over the killer, the hope Allah. So such a person is Satya Aria Satura. Sadio Adoro Diani, two words, Diani, Sisi Kerala, Satya, two words. And also the great standard to do about solution, that is Satya. You are fixed in the ghetto. Kainadol. You are not Kainadol. Now, see, I'm not worried about Kainadol. Lama never see it all. Lama will show Saturday dinner in City. Lama will Mamma shop. So you so that the elite has the Konya. There are the city of good of the can like it. Lama and so come on over the solution to see as you know. So the game will be that we are the network. ခုလာရောက်ပြီးအထုတ်ကြတဲ့ယောဂီတွေအဲ့ဒါလိုဖြစ်ဖြစ်နေပါလေဖြစ်ဖြစ်နေတော့ဒီပရိသတ်ရဲ့သူ့အာရုံတွေကိုသိနားလည်ပြီးတော့မြတ်မြတ်လုံးလုံးရေသေးသေးနဲ့အထုတ်ဖြစ်တယ်နော်ဘုရားတို့ပြရတဲ့ဓမ္မလက်ဆောင်တွေလည်းပဲဆိုလိုမြတ်မြတ်လုံးလုံးလက်ခံလို့ယောဂီတွေပြရတာလည်းပဲသိချင်တတ်ပါလေသိချင်ကြိုးစားဖို့ရဒီနေ့တရားအစတဲ့ကူကလူတွေဆောက်ရတဲ့တုံးပါလေ
As now practicing the Dhamma of Satipatthana is for developing the powers which can keep our lives from becoming destroyed. Our lives can become destroyed by doing and saying and planning, thinking the wrong things. And when we have powers that are the powers that are able to restrain and control and govern our lives, then we can prevent this from happening. And in developing these powers, one doesn't need any special instrument. One simply needs to develop the powers that one has. And on a very basic level, one has to have confidence in cause and effect. One has to trust that when one does something good, either does something or says something or plans something that is good, that is clean, that is civilized, these types of actions, speech, and thoughts bring pure, clean results. One first of all has to have confidence in this, and also that things that we do which are bad, saying bad things, planning bad things, because the intention is low and base, these things bring bad results. So one needs to have confidence in this. Similar to understanding that when we avoid eating food that is not suitable for us, we don't get the problems that come from eating what's not good for us. So in the same way, this is how we can understand unsuitable bad actions. So this is something that we should have confidence in the start, in a very basic way. And without this faith and confidence, it's very important to have this at the outset, because without it, one won't want to make the effort to do the work. So when we learn about how to develop these powers in our life, how to restrain ourselves and so on, learning about this has the nature of waking up our faith. When we learn about the practice, we have faith that becomes awoken, but it's not strong yet, because following on the faith that comes from hearing, one needs to follow it by practice. And if one doesn't actually practice and then develop knowledge stage by stage, our faith won't yet be strong. It will just be wakened. But it won't be the type of faith that comes from acceptance through seeing for oneself, through one's own personal knowledge. So if one practices according to the instructions, and the mind becomes pure and clean, then one develops knowledge stage by stage in a special way. Because one develops one's personal knowledge, one's faith becomes decisive. One's faith is, one comes to acceptance because one sees for oneself through one's practice. And as one continues to develop knowledge, the faith also continues to arise correspondingly. And finally, if one encounters true peace, then one's faith will become unshakable. No one will be able to break one's faith. So this type of faith that comes to experiencing true peace will last not only throughout this lifetime, but through any future lifetimes that come. With this, one knows the right path from the wrong path, and therefore one chooses the right path. One continues to walk the right path, and this ability to walk the right path becomes very strong. So when one comes to realize true peace through one's practice, then one has gained the benefit of having been born a human at this time. One has walked the path of practice and reached a safe destination. And this is what Sayadawgyi wants for the yogis. And therefore, he wants the yogis to know the correct path and to walk it with faith. He's giving the Dhamma gift, and he's very, very happy when he sees that yogis can accept it. So today, because of this, Sayadawgyi has started out today by giving these words of urging to the yogis.
What is done? This is the other story. It's so funny. He's open. As a lot of people are showing that it's right. The Guru Dhyari Adogyi solution. You did the Guru Sazan Adogyi Hoko. The Guru Sujaja Sujela. Little Ayahu Piti Sasira. Say Malaysia, Malaysia, Gomezana. Pubido, Sanama, Pilata. I do the same. So do the zone and the other. Nuclear job. Cut with the body to get it in the other. Pubido job, the ticket. And you see, Yola will see. To get a cigarette, the cooler to take a lot. Sister will have cut it a senior now. Consider the only other out of a sister will cut it a senior now in the senior. Materials like the Mero appeal for our all other. That is the Mero appeal for our senior. No, but so go. Pimana can I see that? Pimana can I say Pimana can I see that? Everywhere Jarisi Yoga, Pure. Everybody else needs to make it. A family will see that the Yariha. Take a Yana set another. Similar set other. A man will be the Roha. No, but don't know, we see that to the other. ထို့တူပဲရဲရဲမှုဝိရိယဆိုတာလည်းကိုယ်လိုမတရားတွေပြုဖို့ရရှိဖို့ရတဲ့သိတိုးလာတော့လည်းမဆုံးဘူးမတိုင်ကျတဲ့အပြုအမူတွေရှောင်ရလည်းတတိတွေပိုကောင်းလာတယ်ဝိရိယတွေကောင်းတော့နောက်ပြန်လည်းပဲတတိယလည်းပဲသူတိဆိုင်ဆိုင်ကြောင်းလည်းပြီးတော့ကောင်းလာတယ်သမာဓိဝိရိယတရားလည်းကောင်းလာတယ်အဲ့ဒီပိုင်းရောက်လာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒီသက်တာအကောင်းတဲ့ဒီရဲ့စိတ်ကိုသုံးမှုအထုတ်နိုင်တဲ့သုံးအားတွေဟာဒီတော်ကြီးဖြစ်လာတာပဲအဲ့ဒီခါမှာဝိပဿနာပฏิလေသာဆိုတော့ဝိပဿနာဉာဏ်ကြီးကြောင့်အစပိုင်းမှာတရားရတာလေးကိုသူစိတ်ကတွေ့လာတော့အဲ့ဒီတရားတွေကယောဂီကိုတကယ်ခန္ဓာတူရဖို့ရအတွက်ဆွဲခေါ်သွားတော့တာသုံးထမ်းကြရတဲ့တူလို့မလို့တော့အဲ့ဒီစိတ်ရောက်ဖို့ရတဲ့သုံးထမ်းကြရအားပေးရပါတယ်အခုဒီမှာကျမ်းစာလည်းဆိုထားပါတယ်ကိုယ်ရောအကြောင်းဆက်တို့အရာကိုယ်ရောအကြောင်းဆက်တို့ကြောင့်လည်းဘာမှမရှိသေးတဲ့သုံးမှုအုပ်ချုပ်နိုင်စွမ်းအားကိုသစ္စာအားလုံးလည်းတတ်ပါလေတဲ့ပထမဆုံးအကြောင်းကတော့အကြောင်းတိုင်းဆိုင်လို့ဖြစ်ပေါ်နေတဲ့ယုံနဲ့သင်္ခါရတရားတွေရှိပြီးတော့ပြစ်တာကြီးပဲဆိုတာကိုမရှိခင်လည်းကိုကသာကပြောလို့ဘုံဘုံဆရာကပြောလို့နားလည်းသူယုံကြည်ထားရပါတယ်ကိုကမပြစ်တဲ့ဘက်ကအကြောင်းဆက်အကြောင်းတွေရှာပြီးတော့မခုခံရပါဘူးဟုတ်မဟုတ်ပါမလားဆိုတော့တန်တရားလည်းဖြစ်ဖို့မလိုပါဘူးလက်ခံထားရပါတယ်သာရမှာပါတယ်အဲကြောင်းကျိုးရုပ်နာတရားတွေဖတ်တဲ့သိမြင်တဲ့ဉာဏ်နဲ့ဖြစ်တယ်အဲဒီကကြလို့ရှိရင်စိတ်ကြီးသက်သက်အကောင်းလာတယ်ဆိုတော့လေအဲဒီစိတ်ဆွမ်းအားတွေရတယ်လို့ရှိရင်ရတယ်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေကိုပထမဆုံးအကျဉ်းစားလို့ရအောင်ဆိုပြီးမြတ်စွာဘုရားကကျမ်းစာများကဥပ္ပန္နုပါဏနာသံဃာရဏတရားမျိုးကကျောင်းကျိုးတဲ့ယုံနာတရားတွေဟာသက္ကနာကြီးရှိတဲ့သက္ကနာကြီးကြောက်ွယ်သွားတာကြီးတယ်ဆိုတာတော့လေသူ့ကိုယ်အာယုံနဲ့သူ့ကိုယ်အာယုံနဲ့သူတို့ရဲ့အခြေအနေလေးကိုပထမဆုံးစပြီးတော့ပြထားပါတယ်ဒါကိုယ်ကရှိလို့အပြစ်တွေကိုမြင်တဲ့အပိုင်းတော့မပြောသေးပါဘူးသူ့ရဲ့အာယုံရဲ့သဘာဝလက္ခဏာနဲ့သူရဲ့သံဃာလက္ခဏာကိုဒီဒါလေးကိုပေါ်ပြတဲ့သဘောပါပဲအဲကိုယ်လည်းကြည့်ပြီးရင်ဆက်ကြည့်ကြရမှာဒါပဲလုံးဝရက်တွေကသူကြောင်းကျိုးတဲ့လုံလတဲ့ခါတရားတွေသွား၆ပါးမှာဖြစ်ပုံပေါ်လို့သာတော်ကဖြစ်ပုံလေးကိုရှင်းလေးသင်ကြားခဲ့ပါတယ်အရာသုံးစကားနဲ့
The power of the Dhamma, which elevates our status in life, reaches to the highest point. This is the extent to which the Dhamma can go. He has this power. And if one has practiced, those who practice respectfully, with meticulous care, and with continuity, if they have started to experience the Dhammas and piti, joy, starts to develop. And as they continue, the noting becomes better, the observation becomes better, and it becomes even stronger, their joy. And especially when one sees how mind and matter, which are related as cause and effect, arise and pass away in a fleeting manner, in a very fast manner. They're here one moment and then gone the next. They appear and then disappear very rapidly. When one sees this, the mind, the clean mind, the pure mind, becomes continuous. And one's knowledge, one's awareness is swift, one's knowledge is swift. The mind knows the mind and matter which are arising and passing away very quickly. And at that time, a happiness arises that never becomes old. One never becomes bored with it. It is an unrelinquishable happiness. And at that stage, the yogi won't back off from the practice. The yogi has, at that point, mental and physical stamina. And the yogi feels very happy with the practice. So then, this faith, that is informed faith that comes through knowledge, is very keen. One's faith is very distinct, and one won't back off at all. And so too, one's effort or virya, it only progresses. It doesn't back off. It doesn't reduce. And one has the courage to avoid wrongdoing. Following on effort, sati becomes especially good. Samadhi and panya also, concentration and wisdom. At this stage, then these keen and sharp powers which are able to govern our life, which are able to rule our life in a very positive way, they become quite strong. And at this stage also the defilements of insight arise. And what the yogi experiences at this stage in the practice just pulls the yogi along. The meditation teacher does not need to urge the yogi to practice at this stage. It's what the yogis experience themselves pulls them along. And it is said in the text that due to 9 causes, the ruling powers, which weren't there to begin with, which weren't there before one started the practice, due to 9 causes, these powers become very keen. And the first of these 9 causes for the ruling faculties, the ruling powers to become strong, before one experiences it in the practice, one must understand from a theoretical level that everything arises and then passes away. Whatever arises passes away. And one has to just understand this on a theoretical level, whether it's because someone has said it or because one has read it. One shouldn't try to reject this idea. One shouldn't try to find something that is permanent. One shouldn't entertain doubts about, is it really true that everything that arises passes away? One should accept this. And it says that this happens, that swift knowledge arises at the stage when the mental powers become developed. So if one wants to develop this type of swift knowledge, then a person has to trust at a basic level that things which arise moment by moment due to conditions pass away. And that is said in Pali, Upanupananam Sankharanam Kayameva Pasati. One needs to see the dissolution of the mind and matter which arises moment by moment due to causes. And so the teachers must need to speak about it so that the yogis will know from a theoretical standpoint. They talk about the objects to be observed, and it's not that the yogis have seen this in their practice yet, but they need to know about it from a theoretical standpoint. So the teachers need to mention about true nature, the true nature of the objects and their common characteristics. And in previous days, Sayadawgyi has been speaking about how we experience phenomena at the six sense doors, and most recently Sayadawgyi has been speaking about how objects arise and are perceived at the body, what is called the body door, how we experience objects of touch. This is what Sayadawgyi has been speaking about.
Adulta yogima, Adabu, Kapovo Adu yogima, Yona Dabawa, Ivo Vedo, Mother the cooler to Sita, စိတ်ရှင်ကျေမှုတော့မရသေးပါဘူးတချို့ယောဂီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့သီလအလေးမထားတော့သီလတော်မှာရှင်ကျေတာမရှိသေးပါဘူးသီလကိုရှင်ကျေပြီးတော့စိတ်ရှင်ကျေအောင်အခုလိုမှတ်ရပါသေးတယ်ဒီတိုင်းအာရုံကအစပေါ်ပြီးအာရုံမှတ်ရသေးတယ်နောက်လို့ဝိရိယတိတိသမာဓိဒီအာကုံတော်တဲ့အာကောက်လို့ရပါတယ်တော်တော်လေးအာကောင်းလို့မှစိတ်ရှိကြမှုဒါလေးတော့ကြရပါသေးတယ်စိတ်တော်တော်လေးရှိကြပြီးမှရုပ်ရည်နာမ်ရည်အကျဉ်းစားရှိနေပါစိတ်ရှိလို့ရှိအကြောင်းနဲ့အကျိုးနည်းနည်းတစ်သိခဲ့ပါလားကြောင်းတော့အကျိုးဖြစ်ပုံနဲ့ကျောင်းဆောင်ကျိုးပြပုံနဲ့ဆက်ပြီးတော့ရှုလို့ရှိရင်သူတို့ပေါ်ပြီးတော့သက္ကနာလေးနေပြီးတော့လောက်ပေါ်သွားလို့ဝိပဿနာဉာဏ်လေးကိုစလာတာသံဃာမှာမဟုတ်သေးပါဘူးရှုလို့ဝေဒနာတွေပါလေကျော်သွားပြီအလေးကျင့်ရတယ်ကောင်းတော့ရိတ်ကလေးပေါ်ရိတ်ကလေးပြောက်ခတ်တုတ်တုတ်ကြည့်မလာဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီယောဂီကအနောက်မဆုတ်တော့ဘူးတရားရတာတွေ့တော်ပြီအဲ့ဒီပိုင်ရောက်လာတဲ့အခါမှာနောက်မဆုတ်အခုတည်းမှာပေါ်ပြရတာကတော့ယုံနာတရားတွေဟာသူ့ကြောင့်နဲ့သူ့ကျိုးဆက်ဆက်ပြီးတော့ဖြစ်ကြတယ်သူတို့ဖြစ်တုံးဖြစ်တယ်လည်းပြီးတော့ရှိရတယ်သူ့ဘာများလို့ရှိရင်အပြုတ်ကြီးဖြစ်တတ်တယ်သူ့ပေါ်လို့ပြတ်တော်တယ်ဖြစ်တတ်တယ်ကျောင်းတဲ့ယုံနာတရားတွေသူ့ကိုယ်ရဲ့သူ့ဘက်ကိုပေါ်တဲ့အာရုံနဲ့သူ့ဘက်ကိုပေါ်ပြတာပါပဲသူတို့ရဲ့သဘာဝလက္ခဏာသူတို့ရဲ့တဏှာလက္ခဏာရိတ်ကလေးပေါ်ရိတ်ကလေးပြောက်ဒီလောက်ပဲပြောက်ပြီးတော့လက်ရည်ဆိုတာပါလို့တဏှာလက္ခဏာကိုယ်ကြီးရှိတဲ့သဘာဝလေးကိုယ်ကြီးသဘာဝလေးတွေကပေါ်ပြီးတော့ကြောက်တာကြည့်ရဆိုတာပေါ့လေသူကြီးသဘာဝလေးတွေအဲ့ဒါကြီးပေါ်ပြတဲ့အပိုင်းရှိပါသေးတယ် yogaတရားကြီးကဒီလိုသဘောရှိတယ်သုတ္တမိယဉာဏ်နဲ့ကြားပြီးတဲ့ဉာဏ်နဲ့လက်ခံထားရမယ်စိတ်ဓာတ်ကြီးတယ်ဆိုလက်ခံယူကြည့်ထားရမယ်ကိုယ်ကအကြောင်းရင်းတွေရှာပြီးတော့ရေးတဲ့ဘက်ကမခုခံရဘူးဆိုတာဒါကိုဆိုလိုတာစပိုင်းလေးသုတ္တမြတ်နဲ့အခိုက်အတန့်ပါပါလို့လူကြီးစိတ်ကလေးစအောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့သဗ္ဗဟမှာတော့ရှုွက်လုံးရတရားတွေနဲ့ရှုမှလို့ရှိရင်အဲဒီရှုွက်လုံးရတရားတွေပြီးဖို့ဒီကလေးကိုဒီကလေးကြောက်ဒါပြီးစိတ်ကပုံလေးကိုပေါ့လေအကျဉ်းစားအနေနဲ့ပြောပြတာပါပဲဒါကယုံကြည်ပါသာလက်ခံပါဆိုတာပေါ့လေစိတ်တွင်းတဲ့အပိုင်းကိုရှိပါတယ်တကယ်ကိုယ်ပိုင်ကအမှန်တရားတွေသိပြီးတော့ကိုယ်ပိုင်ယုံကြည်လက်ခံမှုတွေပေါ့လေဒီလိုဆောင်အားတွေပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒါတွေသိကျင်လို့ဆိုရင်နောက်ပိုင်းကအလုတ်လာပြီးဒီအလုတ်လုပ်တဲ့အခါမှာပေါ်ဆာဆာလုပ်လို့မရဘူးဆိုတော့ပေါ့လေနာပြီးတော့လုပ်လို့မရဘူးတက်တက်လုပ်အောင်လဲဆိုတာအစတူအကြောင်းလေးတွေလို့ပြထားပါလေအဲဒီပြထားတဲ့အကြောင်းလေးတွေကပထမအကြောင်းနဲ့ဒုတိယအကြောင်းဒီနေ့ဒီလောက်ပြောပါမယ်
For the starting yogi, or for the yogi who has practiced before, that does so in a superficial way, because their observations, their moments of observation are sparse, that is, few and far between, they aren't even able to develop purity of mind yet. And some yogis don't take care with their precepts, so they don't have the purity of conduct, which is the basis for purity of mind to arise. So, when the yogi practices, they observe the rising and the falling in the sitting. And when they are able to note so that the mind stays with the object, then the yogi gains purity of mind. And when they do this a lot, when they gain purity of mind, when they've gained it and they can maintain it for quite a while, then one comes to see mind and matter. One comes to see the difference between these two. And continuing to observe for longer, one comes to see how mind and matter are related as cause and effect. And continuing to practice, one comes to see how this mind and matter, which is related as cause and effect, arises and then passes away. This is the start of Vipassana knowledge. It is not yet very strong. And when one can overcome difficult feelings, Vedana, by observing them, when one is able to do this because one's practice is good, then if one sees how mind and matter arise and pass away very quickly, the yogi will not back off anymore. The yogi won't because at this point the yogi has come to experience the taste of the Dhamma. So when one reaches this stage, one won't back off. So what Sayadawgyi has been saying is that in this, mind and matter occur due to causes, and we have to observe them when they arise. When we observe, one comes to see them go away. What we observe is, it's like there's these large fields of observation. There's a large field of observation, and within this there are things, small things that arise, that pass, that come, and we need to observe them because they become apparent. So this is the things that we observe, the true nature that we observe, or the sabhava lakkhana. It arises and passes away. And the fact that it arises and passes away is a characteristic that mind and matter have in common. All types of true nature, all types of individual characteristics, the characteristics of phenomena that are unique to certain types of, unique to each type of thing, mind and matter, all these individual characteristics arise and then pass away. And this is their common characteristic. So mind and matter have this nature to arise and pass away. So this is what now we hear about it. This is called theoretical knowledge, or sutta-maya jnana. And we have to accept this theory. We shouldn't try to search for something permanent when we observe. We shouldn't try to resist the idea that all things which arise pass away when we are only at the stage of hearing about it. That is the stage of sutta-maya jnana. So as Sayadawgyi has been explaining, this is the object. This is how to observe. When one observes, it arises. One comes to see that it arises and passes away. So one should trust in this. So this is just the stage of telling people that this is what really happens. And if one wants to experience it for oneself, then one has to develop strong faith. And in doing this, in developing the powers to be able to see the Dhamma for oneself, one can't work carelessly. One has to work respectfully. And one also cannot take any breaks. One has to work continuously without a break. And so, of these 2 points, Sayadawgyi will begin to speak about these which are also causes for the powers to arise.
whether or not couldn't have looked at you or just the other way to each other, not from our body. You did not from our body. Let's say, those who are not from other time of you to the living sector. Sagan or Sirava, you manage to your people to be as a body. So we have allowed the architect to go to the Lumamalo, the water. Whether the book or Chapa the book or Taizari, when I told it, Luma. Carry by the land of the boat, and so the TV quick and the lower. So we are the Mali Summer of City Meadow. Whoever systems are still in the area, a paper for the system of the city that set up. We are living Kamangala Kilo, era like you. Don't do the Luna and the other yet. The Bawala can have he are. The Bawala can have a popular job. Samia lesson about him. To be lesson about me all. It is really young. City need the desire to be sure there are things you do. Sumama Judy was also so it was a label for people. Lumalu and that place at Lucana. She is a Lucella. Nana, who was the door at Tizarima, Nani, who was a son of Dwari, Madame Masuba. So don't Madame Masuba. Really was serious and Mamma Nalapa. Therefore, take a look. The Apple Sijari is to say, Kajido Autogate car, Niaso Autogate car. A car to the Jara Mahmadu Samara. Something so this is something that you have. Lumana is what you have. Lumana go ahead. You know, there's Loma, please say that Loma. Lama, otherwise, it's too considerable.
It is said, Satatsatiraya Sampaditi. This is to continue, to continue to speak about the causes which bring the ruling faculties to come into existence. In sharpening the ruling powers, it is said Vipassana knowledge is developed with respectful practice. Satatsatiraya Sampaditi. That means that in order to develop Vipassana knowledge, this is the way to do it, with respectful practice. So that means that, first of all, one needs to listen to the method, the instructions respectfully. And then, as according to what one has heard and understood, one should put them into practice carefully. So, one of the first things is that although one is strong, perfectly healthy, one has to behave as though one is an invalid, as though one is weak and sick. When people are healthy, they move about quickly. They get up, stand up, sit down quickly. But a person who has a bad back, for example, will stand up slowly, will sit down slowly, will move their arms and legs slowly so that they don't hurt themselves. So, although a yogi is strong, the mind and matter that occur in us are very fast and very subtle. And if we do our actions, if we perform actions quickly, we can't keep up with them. We can't observe what happens in us. So in order to be able to observe the true nature that is in us, that arises in us, the sabhava lakkhana, and in order to be able to catch its common characteristic, that is, that it arises and then passes away, one has to observe effectively. One has to work respectfully. So the yogis should ask themselves, in standing up, sitting down, in doing actions, how do I do them? Do I do them quickly or slowly? And when one is doing things that involve other people, like going to lunch in a line, getting food at the buffet, other people are in front of us, other people are in back of us. So at those times, and also taking a shower or a bath, we have to move quickly. When other people are affected, we can't note every detail. And when we're bathing also, we have to just note in a very general way at that time. We can't be very detailed and slow, because other people are involved. But when we do the sitting, when we go from sitting to walking, when we do the walking, when we do the general activities that only involve ourselves, then as much as possible we should behave as though we are a sick person. And only if this is the instruction, and only when one does exactly according to the instructions will one be able to gain the beneficial results of practice.
ဝေဒနာကရောက်တဲ့အခါမှာအဲ့လိုမကြခင်နဲ့5မိနစ်10မိနစ်မှကိုကြီးဆက်ဆက်ကြီးကိုယ်တွေကမခံနိုင်မှုတွေကပေါ်လာတတ်တယ်အဲ့ဒီကကြားလို့ရှိရင်ကိုယ်နဲ့ဆိုမျက်ပွင့်နေတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဟာအဲ့ဒါကိုစိုက်ပြီးတော့အတားကြီးကမှတ်ရမယ်အစားပေါ်လို့ကိုယ်နာမတက်တယ်မှာကြောက်လို့ခဏခဏပြည့်စုံကြောင်းလို့ရှိရင်တော့အဲ့ဒီဝေဒနာတော်တော်နဲ့မတော်တော့လူတွေတို့သဘောထားပါတဲ့ဒီကကြားလို့ရှိရင်လူတွေဆိုအသက်ကမရှိတော့သူ့ထိုးပေါက်လဲနားရဲဘာမှမမြည်ဘူးပေါ့အဲ့လိုသဘောထားတော့ဟောပါတယ်အဲ့ဒါတော့ကျမ်းစာဆိုထားပါတယ်ဒါတကယ်ကိုဒီဘဝမှာဒီတိကအလူတွေစိတ်ထားတတ်ပြီးတော့လူဆက်ပြီးဖြစ်ပြီးတော့ဟောလို့တကယ်အစဉ်ကမြင့်လို့တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေပေါ့ဟိုတုန်းကအဲ့ဒီစိတ်ထားရင်းအထုပ်ပုံလေးကိုပြောပြရတော့ဒီမှာလည်းတကယ်တရားသူရလို့တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေလည်းအဲ့ဒီနမူနာလေးယူပြီးတော့ကျိုးစားလို့ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့ရွတ်သူကိုလေးနဲ့ဘုရားတတိသမာဓိတွေအားကောင်းပြီးတော့စိတ်အဟုန်နဲ့ပေါ့လေသတ္တတရားတွေလည်းခါတဲ့တိုးတက်ဆောင်ရွက်တော့မှာပါပဲ
He said, Balawa to below Riwa. Although one is healthy, one shouldn't do any sudden movements. One shouldn't stand up quickly, sit down quickly, walk and so on. One shouldn't make sudden movements intentionally. And that's not all. It is said, Satima Sayaka Ando. That means that although one has eyes to see, one should behave as though one is blind. That means that when an interesting sight comes into view, one shouldn't just look at it. One shouldn't look here and there, look around at the environment and see what might be nice. One should restrain one's eyes as though they weren't functional at all. One should just have that attitude. And regarding sound too, it is said sotawa sadiroyata, that although one hears a sound that one wants to know what is that sound and so on, one has to just not take any interest in it at all. One simply needs to act as though one hadn't heard it at all, because one needs to observe hearing, not to follow the sound and find out anything about it. So when someone is deaf, they don't hear a sound at all. So no matter what sound is going on around them, they aren't interested in it. And yogis too should have the idea of not taking any interest in the sounds or sights that go around them. There's no need to, make ourselves blind or make ourselves deaf. It's simply that we should have that attitude. There's no need to be blind or deaf in order to do the practice. One should just not take interest in sights, not take interest in sounds. It is also said, Penyawa Sayatamugo. That means that no matter how much education one has, no matter how much skill one has, or experience in life, one should have the attitude that I know nothing. One should simply have the attitude of think of oneself as a complete beginner who knows absolutely nothing, and just tell yourself, I'm going to follow what the teacher says, and then just do it. Just do what the teacher says. So have that It's not that one doesn't have knowledge, but one puts it aside and don't try to use that skill while you do the practice. And further, when one reaches the stage where uncomfortable feelings arise, the stage of Vedana arising, it can happen that one sits for just 5 minutes and very uncomfortable feelings come up. So at this stage, one who has concern for their life and limb may move because one's afraid of the pain. But if one moves at this stage, if one sits at this stage instead of just being patient and observing the pain, then one won't be able to get past this stage in the practice. So one has to not have any regard for life and limb when one is experiencing pain. One has to think of oneself just as if one were a corpse. A corpse doesn't react if it's poked here and there, and one should just have the same attitude towards one's body when it's experiencing pain. And this is what the texts say, and it is said that this is how one who wants to become a true human being, one who wants to make their mental attitude humane, to have a humane heart, and to develop special human knowledge, this is how one needs to practice. This is said in the text. And if those who want to gain special knowledge practice in this way that has just been described, within a few days, faith will become very strong. It will develop and blossom.
Where the woman to control Yamato, you not be having to in a China, you not China, that is that you get a loki. The soup for water from Java. You never see what's on the look at the ball. You not see when I look in the reality. Look at you do the village as a man and she was on the sea and a few years. You don't know to now that you are. Don't say you to the sea and you do the village as a diploma. The first look I go next to her. That you have to Malaya to Attica the Pogoria. The first yogi looked out Susan Java, the Valencia, Africa, to the now, you do the living Southern, I don't know Java, to living in the Teton, they are so talented.
No matter what work we do, when we know a method that is supposed to get good results, when we know how to get good results, then if we do that, if we apply that method respectfully, we are sure to get the good results that come from the method. So if one does not know the method for gaining benefit, one won't be able to get the results. If one knows the method but doesn't follow it, doesn't apply it, then also one won't get the results. If one knows the method, applies it, but doesn't do it with respect for the method, then also one's results won't be good. So only if one knows the method and then puts it into practice with care and respect for the practice, will one get the benefits, and one will be like a good worker. One will be a good worker. So Sayadawgyi today wants to urge the yogis to be good workers and to follow the instructions of the meditation teachers. That's all for today.